Hello YouTubers, Alaska Prepper here. Merry Christmas, ladies and gentlemen. Before we start, I'm going to ask you to please give this video a like, share it, let it play all the way through. That will really help because for some reason I've lost favor with YouTube. I got a couple of videos demonetized here in the last month or so, and ever since then YouTube has stopped recommending me almost altogether. They only recommend me at about 20% of the rate that they used to recommend my videos before. And I understand that if a thumbnail from my channel doesn't pop up on your feed, you're more than likely not going to search for a video thinking that maybe I didn't put one up. However, what I want to talk about today, ladies and gentlemen, on this video at least, is about hunger and how it's going to overtake America like we've never seen it before. Now, I was going to go over this article with you, and I'm going to read you a very short part, and then, of course, I will leave the link to this in a pinned comment so that you can revisit it. U.S. food banks grapple with strained donations as people battle food inflation. Now, if you all remember me talking to you about this in the past, that what is going to happen when the food banks run out of food? Inflation is to a point, even though they say inflation is transitory. Remember that? Inflation is transitory, ladies and gentlemen. Your eyes are just deceiving you. They're playing tricks on you with the prices that you see at the supermarket. However, I digress. I remember telling you that there was going to come a point where people were barely going to afford to buy their own food. Who was going to donate to the food banks? And that the last thing that we want as a society, as a citizenry, is for the food banks to be beholden to the federal government. The more that food banks are sustained by their own local communities, the better. And unfortunately, as the Christmas season gets closer and closer, more people are going to be going hungry that used to depend on food banks to provide them with a meal. Only 25% of respondents, only 25%, all right, were more likely to donate during this holiday season because of the escalating food costs at the grocery store. So what they're saying is that 75% are saying, hey, we just can't afford to give the way that we used to give. And you can't blame them. It's not like they're being greedy. It's just that they can't give the way they used to give because they have to put food on their table first. If not, they'll find themselves having to go to a food bank. The current economic climate has led 72% of Americans to alter their grocery shopping habits, with 51% stating that rising grocery prices are forcing them to cut costs in other areas. I remember talking about how one of the first stages of this crisis that we're in, and it's going to get deeper, ladies and gentlemen, as we move forward, is that people were going to start cutting down a little bit, not getting the extra things that they really like, junk food and stuff. They're going to start cutting down, and then they're going to start switching to a lesser, lesser quality products, ladies and gentlemen. Then they're going to start cutting down even more on what they get, not going out to eat. What are they going to do in the end when they just can't afford food, period? Well, they're going to rely on the food bank, they're going to rely on the church, etc., etc., etc. Feeding America, a nonprofit organization overseeing a network of over 200 food banks across the country, meaning the U.S., reveals that over 150 of their food banks, that's 3/4 of their food banks, reported increased or steady demand earlier this year as food prices surged. In Wisconsin's Milwaukee County, a network of 47 food pantries noted a 50% increase in visits. Food banks in Morgan, Oregon also experienced a surge in demand. Again, ladies and gentlemen, what are they going to do when these food banks just can't give anymore? And instead of going over all of these articles, I just wanted to show you how many of them there are. This site here is called Food Rationing News, and I'll leave you the link to this as well. They have a lot of good information here, which is where I got the story right here. U.S. food banks grapple with strained donations. But check this out, ladies and gentlemen. Look, India bans onion exports as government tries to control rising food prices. This is just about a week old. We also know that India banned a lot of their rice exports as well, knowing that rice feeds about half of the people in the world, and India was one of the biggest exporters of rice in the world, and they stopped exporting at least a few different types of their rice. Check this out. German farmers: Ukraine's accession to the EU would destroy family farming and flood markets with cheap crops. So now farmers within Germany are fighting with trying to keep food out because it's going to destroy their market. Why is that important? Because as soon as they let imports flood the market and make the farmers from Germany make their food not be able to sell because it's too expensive, then they are going to go out of business, and then they're going to be reliant on another country to send them their sustenance. That's why that's so important, ladies and gentlemen, where we have to have our own systems within our own nations. That way we don't have to depend on anyone else. Local food banks are struggling to keep up with demand as inflation leaves more Americans hungry. Schools all over the U.S. are now experiencing milk shortages. There is a high in cocoa prices. I think I talked about this. Highest level in 45 years as poor weather diminishes outlook for harvest. Some people may say, who cares? It's just cocoa. But if it's affecting cocoa, it's probably affecting other crops as well that maybe we're not hearing about. 10 million more Americans struggle with hunger in 2022 compared to previous years. More people are disaster prepping these days than perhaps ever before, ladies and gentlemen. Why do you think that is? They see what's coming. So if you're one of those people that travels the world with rose-colored glasses and thinks everything's great because you're suffering from normalcy bias or recency bias, do yourself a favor. Get some food put away. Get some water. Just get basic preparedness items where maybe you can stay home for a month without having to go anywhere and buy anything to sustain yourself and your family. You will be thankful that you did. In my opinion, that is. And this is something that not too many people are talking about, especially on the mainstream media, and it's very important. Solar researcher warns of solar activity decrease. What does that mean, ladies and gentlemen? Solar activity decrease. That doesn't mean we're going to go into an ice age where everything's going to ice over. It means that we're going to get less energy from the sun. The energy from the sun that we get allows us to grow food. So less energy means what? Less food. Price controls have begun. Food rationing is next in line as America is an out-of-control train barreling toward an economic collapse with no brakes. What does an economic collapse have anything to do with food? We need a way in which we can transfer value for value or exchange value for value, and you're not going to get food unless you're paying for it in one way or another. It's all connected, ladies and gentlemen. That is why you need to be prepared, because it can be anything in the chain that breaks and you're going to be without unless you already have it. Canada's grocery retail giants push back against accusations of price inflation. Asked Trudeau to examine his policies first. What they're talking about here is price controls. And I've told you to take a look at that as well. As soon as you hear the word price controls are going to be set by the government on A, B, or C, you better go get those things, because one of two things are going to happen. One is that it may not be available anymore after a certain time because the manufacturer just can't make it for that price, number one. Or if it is available, it's going to be a lot more expensive because you're going to be buying it in the black market, ladies and gentlemen. So be on the lookout for the word price controls coming out of these government fundeds or the mainstream media. 1 out of every 5 U.S. child does not have enough food to eat as the global food crisis intensifies. Now, this is the most wealthy, supposedly, nation in the world, and 20% of the children in this country don't have enough food to eat. This may be a problem that's occurring in Canada, but I guarantee you it's occurring here in the United States as well, and probably at a higher rate. High immigration linked to worsening inflation, Bank of Canada Deputy Governor says. Why? Because there's a lot more demand on food. There's more demand on housing. There's more demand on not necessarily education, but I would say medical. So what's going to happen? The people that can actually pay for these services, they're going to end up paying a lot more, because nothing is for free, ladies and gentlemen. If someone is not paying for something, it means that someone else is. Thank you very much for joining in. And if you're still here on this part of the video, thank you very much. I truly do appreciate every one of you. God bless you all. Merry Christmas. God bless America. I'm Alaska Prepper. I'm out.